Good evening, everyone. So I didn't have anything particular really planned. If anyone has any suggestions, just let me know. I'll go over whatever. The one thing I did want to, or that I knew I wanted to go over at some point, was how I came up with a simple undercut map to provide to an owner for reimbursement. So this is the finished product. Good evening, kids. How you doing? So this was the finished product, which is just a really simple map. Showed the 3 undercut areas. I actually plotted this in with a white background and a black background to ask the contractor which they prefer. I provided a simple report that showed how much material was captured in each topo. So one of the cool things about this is I dropped the plan sheets onto the surface that I'm using. You can actually see the surface in the you can see the different the surface is in 3D and it's got the plan views right on it. Really easy to do it in Business Center. I'll go through that. All right, so the first thing I did was I think these were probably the first 3 that I did. I brought the points in from the topo. I just connected, just created a surface out of all the points. Nothing special. I don't really worry too much about break lines, especially when someone provides me a topo without much information. So in 3D, that's what they look like. One good trick for Business Center, I always do this: display options, 0 elevation display options. Do not display in 3D. So now there's only 3D line work. Makes it a little cleaner. So I got these topos from the contractor. They sent them to me. I made the surfaces. The first thing I had to figure out was, what these were all undercut areas. It was unsuitable material. The contractor was subject to compensation for all of it. So the first thing I do is figure out what's the what offset is the was the subgrade supposed to be cut to. I don't make a lot of subgrade models, not for construction at least. So there's a macro, really simple macro. Let's see, where is it? Offset surface. So click offset surface. Figured out from the contractor it was minus 1.33 feet. So the reference surface is going to be finished design. I add all my line work, my 3D line work to finished design. So finished design, new surface, I'm going to do FD offset minus 1.33. Vertical offset minus 1.33. No clipping boundary. Just going to hit OK. Alright, so there's a surface. Just change my sampling distance. Just changing my sampling distance to 5 just to tighten this up the way it looks. It's not going to do it now that I offset the surface. Just do it one more time. Macros, offset surface, finished design, FD, offset, minus 1.33, vertical minus 1.33. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do is, so I've got my PDFs geo-referenced in here, which every model I build is all based off of reference PDFs. So grading utility plan. Doesn't really matter what you choose. I'll probably choose the site plan. So I'm going to look at so just right click on site plan and properties. I have none on display style. Normally I have it dimmed, but there might have been a reason why I switched it. So I'm going to put it back to dimmed. Now this is in plan view, of course. So I want to see this on my surface. All right, Alex. So context: why was it undercut? Design mistake, spot elevations incorrect. Nope. Simply the only reason why it was undercut was it was just due to unsuitable soil, just unforeseen conditions. So there's nothing special at all. Contractor got everything cut down to subgrade. The owner got on site, owner representative, inspector, went in, took a look and said, nope, this is, maybe there's buried topsoil or something. They said, no, we need you to cut this out. At that time, normally what happens is you cut it out. They will take a measurement. to document how much material you took out. A lot of contracts have a line item. Even a lump sum contract will have a line item for undercut. Often it's cut and replace. And if not, it's the contractor prices it up. Sometimes they even get to bid the price. So the only way to normally do this is you measure it with a tape measure, and these were pretty small areas. But if you really want to document your work, you have a GPS rover. You fire up the rover and you just take a topo of the undercut. Just in this case, you just need to topo the bottom of it because the payment is only to the subgrade. Yeah, so I like to keep a sampling distance of 5 feet. It's probably doesn't make a huge difference on a job like this, but it's actually something that I want to learn. Or do I mess with triangulation lines? No, not normally. I'll look for stuff that's bad or out of whack, something that doesn't look right or I know isn't going to work right in the field. I probably could do a better job on a lot of stuff with checking the triangulation, but I've always felt that in construction, it's you get out there, if you're actually building something, you're alongside this dozer and you see the materials you're working with and the conditions. Little details usually don't make that much of a difference. Of course, there's times they do, but on most jobs, the little triangulation issues are generally not a big deal. Most stuff can be solved by just putting a brake line somewhere. So I've got the surface, and I've got my background PDF, but of course in 3D view, this is all we really see. I'm going to turn off the other surfaces. So I want to see the plan view on this surface. So I'm going to select my georeferenced image. By default, a georeferenced image is not selectable. And actually, I don't know why this one is selectable. I always turn that off, even if I import them. If you go into your advanced view filter menu right here, and you scroll down, georeferenced image. Right now they're checked. Some of these are checked selectable because I just brought them in separately. I always turn that off because I don't. When you're clicking on a line, if I want to click on this line, if that PDF is selectable, when I click, I'm going to have two options: the georeferenced PDF or the line. And for all the work that I do, there's always a PDF behind it, so I always turn that off. The way around it is down at Project Explorer. Click on Project Explorer and collapse surfaces. Then I'm going to expand imported files, and it's already on site plan right here. So when I click on it here, now it's selected. So I've got one item selected. So I can't select it in Business Center in the view, but I can select it in the Project Explorer menu. So it's as simple as just going to Surfaces, Surface Members, add or remove surface members. I want to add this PDF to my finished design offset minus 1.33. Just going to hit add. It's going to re-triangulate, which of course there's nothing to actually add to it surface-wise. Zoom in a little bit and let it refresh. So now if I go back to 3D, now I've got the PDF. So now I know why I had it on regular instead of dimmed. Just because it looks very dark. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to click the site plan in Project Explorer, close out of this, scroll down to here, I'm going to take it from dimmed to none. And then it looks pretty good. The only thing is I don't really need any of these triangles on here. It just makes it look busy. So in here, same thing in Project Explorer. I click on this surface, FD offset minus 1.33. So show in 3D view, wireframe, no. Brake lines, no. And I'm going to leave show shadows on. Yes, it makes it a little bit dimmer depending on where it's looking. So now that is a 3D view with the plan sheet dropped on top of it. This is a really flat job, so it doesn't, it just doesn't look as good with this job because it's flat. And I guess there wasn't much, I guess there was no curb on this job. And this is an offset surface too. So you can see, yeah. So one thing you can do, trick to quickly do a vertical exaggeration. In the bottom left down here, VE 1.0. So right now it's just a true, true representation of that surface. if you hold Control and Shift and you scroll up or down, it will increase that exaggeration. So I'm going to make it really exaggerated, 7.4. Zoom out and find it. So there you can see if it wasn't such a flat job, that's what you would see in that surface. It's that PDF draped right on top of it. It's a neat feature of Business Center. I'm not sure if every software suite supports this or not, but I don't use it that often. Once in a while I actually have to use it for a job just because it's easier. Normally I don't use it. Alright, so now I've made my surfaces. So you can see these surfaces are below the offset surface. And that's representing the extra, it's all the undercut that they did. This was just a straight topo on the bottom of everything. So I can adjust the transparency too. So it's at 20 right now, but I probably want to kick it up to at least 50. It might be a little too much. Almost looks like those surfaces are right on top. Yeah, that's pretty good. 40% transparency on the offset surface. You got the plan sheet in here. Probably don't need any line work. So let's just be honest. None of this is really necessary to document your undercut. But you send this over to the owner of the job, most likely you're not going to get any questions on the whatever you billed for, whatever you quantified. I mean, this is very professional. It didn't take me very long. In just a few minutes, I was able to generate this. And it's a lot better than just a field book with a few dimensions and measurements written on it. So after this, I just did an earthwork report. So I just surface to surface. So I want my initial to be, I wonder how I did it. Yeah, I probably did it backwards from what conventional thinking would be. I almost always make a topo the initial, where the shots you actually took in the field. To me, that's always the initial, even though for some people, or for some clients, they might think that it seems backwards. Maybe it is backwards, I don't know. So I always pick the topo as my initial. And then for the final, I'm going to do finished design offset minus 1.33. Compute. A couple seconds to compute. So this is the standard earthwork report from Business Center. So fill material. So of course this is fill to the grade we're looking for, which is an offset of finished grade. So 197 yards to finished grade. That is actually the material that they cut out. That's why I said it sounds kind of backwards. But this is just the way I normally do things. So we took a topo. It was supposed to be at finished design minus 1.33. It is a fill of 197 yards to get to that point, which means the owner of this job owes them, that cost, whatever their unit price is, times this quantity for that undercut. So I think all I did here was I just found a view that looked good and just took a screenshot of it, brought it into Bluebeam, labeled it undercut 1, undercut 2, undercut 3, and then I made sure undercut 1 to minus 1.33 subgrade. Contractor was happy with this. They sent it right over to the owner. I'm trying to think of another job that I had recently where I was using the PDFs draped onto the surface. I've been doing some of these projects for drone flights. So it's a general contractor who is using a drone to monitor the site work sub. So I've been doing some very rough surfaces for that, so they can utilize that with their drone surfaces to see how close the site work subs are getting. How do you include and/or toggle turn on off the elevation gradient to the map? Okay, I can go over that one. So I assume by map you mean, well, actually it's in plan view too. So map, surface, same thing really. So the elevation gradient is it's all in the surface information. So I am going to turn off that finished design offset. Actually, I'll turn off my surface, turn off my PDF. show disconnected points down here. If you click that, it turns off all points that aren't part of a surface. Just turn all my surfaces off. Put finish design on. Yeah, that's probably what you're talking about, Alex. So in Business Center, so right here, show in plan view. So right now I've got wireframe turned off, but if I turn it on, you see and I think they're always black or white depending on your background. But so I like to turn that off if I use the elevation gradient. So right down here in plan view it says shading. So you can do no, which is most surfaces that you see just have wireframe. You can do by elevation, by surface color, and by material. Surface color, of course, is just whatever the surface color is. But the last option right here, by elevation, and there it is. That's it automatically goes, or based on the high and low elevation of the surface, it automatically adjusts the color shading. And then there's some other, if you click on the surface and then under the surfaces ribbon, if you go over to color mapping, this is the default that was just based on the surface. So if I change this to smooth transitions, you'll notice those lines went away and now it's completely smooth. This mixed with contour lines looks really good. So these are the quick contours. It looks real good. And I use this a little bit in plan view. It's nice for some things, but I've always noticed it's usually just too busy. It's not too bad with a background image. Can you go through the process of adding brake lines and adding them to the existing surface like a sidewalk? What do you mean by existing surface? A surface that you already have, or like an existing conditions surface? I assume you probably mean adding them to a surface that you've already built. Probably want to, for this, turn on the wireframe. Okay, so the surface I'm currently working with. So everything that I do is always per design. So when it comes to a sidewalk, like this right here is a sidewalk. Actually, this sidewalk was a pane based on the spot elevations I gave. So turn off. Okay, so yeah, if I just want to include a long sidewalk along the parking lot, actually we'll make one. We'll make a sidewalk somewhere. I'll go right here. So if I was supposed to have a sidewalk, so I'm going to first select this edge of pavement layer, and let's just actually I'll add it as curb, and then I'll add a sidewalk. So I'm going to right click offset line. It's a really simple command. Just going to pick curb top back. So I'm going to offset at 0.5, tab over to the right, vertical 0.5. Let's do a segment of this. So let's start right here and right here. So I'm going to hit apply. So in 3D view, so now we've got this flat asphalt surface, originally asphalt surface, and now I've just offset this curb line. You can see it real clear there. So there it is, but it's not part of anything. It's just floating around up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that line. Oh, not the surface. And I'm going to make sure. So finish design. So I'm going to go up here to the surfaces tab, surface members. I'm just going to hit add. It's going to add that line to the surface. Now you can immediately see there's a flag here. That's because I had a contour line coming right down to that edge of pavement. So I probably don't need these here anyway. So I'm going to take this contour line, that one, that one, that one. And then actually it's the same, really it's the same command, it's already open. So I've selected 4 members. I'm working with finish design. I'm just going to hit remove. All right, so now I've got these. I'm gonna take the contour lines off. So now I've got curb. I'll just add it as a surface member. Technically, it's a brake line, but in terms of Business Center, it's not really a brake line. When Business Center uses the term brake line, it's usually in order to manipulate a surface to do what you want it to do. Not necessarily just adding a feature. It's if you had triangles that you didn't want to connect, you can add a brake line that way. Is an easy way to do it. So back to plan view to make a sidewalk. I'm just gonna go click on the curb. I'm gonna close this. And I'm gonna right click, offset line. And this one, let's do an 8-foot sidewalk, offset to the right. Then vertical, we'll do 0.12, which is 1.5%. So it's going to offset at 0.12 to the right. I'll go back to plan view or 3D view. So when I hit apply, oh, didn't want it to go to that layer. Just change it to sidewalk. So now you can see the sidewalk layer is floating up top. So same thing, I'm going to click on the line string, surface. So I use surface members so often that I've actually got it as a keyboard shortcut. So for me, it's Control S. My left hand's always on the keyboard. So anytime I just hit Control S, and I've got remove surface member. Just gonna hit add. Now I've got an 8-foot sidewalk. And then the reason these slope arrows aren't showing up is because these triangles are too tight. We go to settings. I can either make in this case, I'm just going to change the slope arrow length to 1.5 feet. Should do it. Yeah. So now you get your sidewalk draining down towards your curb, and then it automatically sloped everything right off back to the outside. Did that answer your question, Alex? Yeah, I mean it's real easy. I think Business Center makes some things very easy. Do you have any other questions? You guys have anything else you wanted to see, go over? Well, actually, one thing I should show is a quick cut fill map of those. Actually, I'll show how to get all those surfaces onto one, all the undercut surfaces into one surface, and then make a quick cut fill map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Surface, Create Surface. I'm just going to say Cut Fill Surface. When it says members to form the surface, how close am I from the actual line work of the PDFs from the engineer? Normally they are right on the money. I mean, that's as close as you probably could ever get. It's all in how you reference it. Rarely is it because the designer plotted it wrong. Sometimes it is, but it's all how close you reference it. So I'm going to do this real quick. Cut fill surface, and in members to form surface, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Project Explorer and I'm going to click Undercut 1 through Undercut 7. So I got 7 members selected. And I'm going to hit OK. So now it actually connected triangles around all of those surfaces. Surprised it only. Looks like it only did. Oh, maybe some of these are on top of each other. I'm just going to do 1 through 3. So I'm going to highlight these surfaces, and I'm going to remove them from the cut fill surface. Yeah, there was a little overlap, so I'll just do 3. So all these triangles are all connected between all these. So this is the fastest way I know of doing this. It's pretty quick. So if you go back over to your surfaces, I'm going to turn off the surface I just made. And I'm going to turn on Undercut 1. I'm going to click on the surface, go up to Surfaces, and I'm going to do Edge Break Line, which is going to make a break line around that entire surface. And it's going to change the triangles a little bit. I'm just going to take that break line and I'm actually going to remove it from the surface because I'm just trying to use it as a boundary. I always Control D undefined. So Control D for me is change elevation. I'm going to go through this pretty fast because it's a little repetitive. So CAD, change elevation, undefined elevation, apply. Now it's just a 2D line. So try to follow. I'm just going to do this with all 3. So edge break line, remove it from Undercut 2, Control D for me, undefined elevation. I'm going to turn on surface 3, edge break line, remove from surface, make it undefined so there's no elevations tied to it. So now basically I've created 3 boundaries that are around the outside of all 3 of these surfaces. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to, I'm going to turn those 3 surfaces off, and I'm going to go back to the cut fill surface, which has all these triangles connecting it because I added each of the undercut surfaces as members to this one cut fill surface. So I'm going to click on these edge break lines. Then I'm going to go up to surfaces, and instead of surface members, I'm going to do surface boundaries. And the surface I want to add them to is the cut fill surface. So when I add it, just added all 3 of those boundaries, and it made each of these what were separate surfaces. Now they're all the same surface, but I added 3 boundaries so that they're still on their own. And then simple as cut fill map. Name it. So my initial surface, I'm going to make, I'll do this backwards so it makes more sense to most people. I'm going to do my cut fill surface. Nope, I'm going to do my finished offset minus 1.33 is my initial. So the subgrade surface is what I want to use as my initial. And then I'm going to pick the cut fill surface as the final. I'm going to make a new layer for this. So I think I already did a cut fill map here, so I've already got stuff filled up on that layer. So I've got the textile, cut fill labels, grid. It's gonna be tough because they're so small, but let's see if a 5-foot grid will work. Do 0.12 is the decimal precision. And I'm gonna hit OK. So the text is way too big, so I'm gonna go up to drafting, text style. I'm gonna go down to my cut fill labels, and yeah, it's way too big. I'm gonna make it 0.04. Even that was too big. 0.025 maybe. Yeah, that's good enough. So now I just made a cut fill map out of these. What started as three initial surfaces. So I'm going to select the cut fill map. Easier said than done. Foolproof way, go to Project Explorer, click your cut fill map, and then I'm going to go up to surfaces. I'm going to go to color mapping. Then I'm going to hit load, and I got these from Trimble at some point. I could share them anywhere, and if anyone else wants to use them. I just always hit this 31 base colors, hit open, then it divides it up with this color scheme, which is a lot easier on the eyes than the default. So I'm just going to hit OK. So I'm going to actually change the decimal precision on this. So if you highlight the cut fill surface, decimal precision, I'm going to go to 0.1 so that the text isn't so bad. And then it's actually bold text, which sometimes doesn't work real well, so I'm going to go change that quick. Alright. So now you can see this is a cut fill map. Maybe I can put on one of my PDF background images. And they usually like to make these, they're by default, they're not transparent at all. Just make it 20. So here it is. One neat thing, let me close out of this. So most people don't know this in Business Center. If you go down to the very bottom right of the corner, which is even hard to see, actually it might even be cut off on my screen. Yeah, very bottom right corner. If you click that button, it's the coordinate scroll. I like to drag it up here to the top left. If you right click in there, these are all the options that when your cursor is scrolling, it'll read it out. It'll give you the surface elevation of the most recently selected surface. If you have alignment, station offset, there's a lot of different things. Grid coordinates, not very useful most of the time. So I'm going to do surface elevation. And the way to get this to work correctly is you go to Project Explorer. In this case, I think all I have to do is click Cut Fill Map. And then I can click out. And now it's registered that as the last surface. If you go back up to the coordinate scroll, let's see, surface name. Now it will tell you. So cut fill map is the name of the surface that it's scrolling. So when my cursor's outside of the surface, it doesn't display anything. But when it gets into the surface, it's scrolling. It's telling me to the thousandth what the cut fill was. So it's actually nice because if this is a really tight grid because it's a small cut fill map. But I can take this and change that cut fill map. If I made this 10 feet, 10-foot spacing, you don't get a lot of information. You can see this dark area here, and a lot of times you wonder, well, what's the most cut that there is? So you just come over here, and if you look 2.24, 2.27, I can just kind of 2.28, hunt around for that highest number. And it's live scrolling that surface. So the elevation of a cut fill map is the cutter fill. So in this case, it's telling me the surface elevation's 2 feet. It's because it's a cut fill map. Another thing with the cut fill maps, similar to what I was doing before, there's an option in here, drape surface. Display surface draped on the final surface. So this cut fill map, my initial was my finish grade. I forget now. Initial was finish grade, or my subgrade surface. Yeah. So it's going to drape it onto that. It's going to drape it onto the cut fill map surface, or the one I made of the 3 undercuts. So if I were to go into 3D view, that cut fill map was draped right on top. Let me see. All right, so I turned the surface off. So now in 3D, actually, so there I can turn on my offset. My offset surface. It's a little hard to see through it, but so now the cut fill map is draped onto the final surface that was used in the cut fill map. If I were to turn that setting off, you will find this surface, but it's down here at the actual elevation of the cut fill map, which is, in this case, is all -2 elevation-ish. Kids, yeah, I'll post the files that I use. I'll have to set a reminder for myself on my to-do list to do that. I'll get together all the stuff that I use, and I'll post it everywhere. I'll post a link to it. Probably be the program that I use to transfer files, and I'll probably provide a link there where anyone can go and download it. It'd actually be good for me to clean it up because there's a lot of stuff that I don't use. Alright, I'm going to take this, put it back to drape surface. Oh, there's a quick cut fill map, and that shows you how to get 3 isolated areas into one cut fill map. The only other way to do this without creating those boundaries, the edge break line boundaries, is to have 3 separate cut fill maps, and that's just a pain for something small like this. So in this case, the contractor went in, they cut down to subgrade, they got ready to start placing stone, and they said, this doesn't look good. Went to the contractor, or went to the owner. The owner looked at it and said, yeah, cut 2 feet out, cut 1.5 feet out, or they probably just chased it out to the unsuitable was gone. And they could tell it was good material, so they cut it out. And this represents that because they did a topo in the field. All right, I'm about to wrap up. If anyone has any last quick questions, feel free to ask. I'll try my best to answer anything. And just like last week, I will be this will be posted on my YouTube page. It'll stay on there. I download it. I might chop some stuff up at some point and isolate it. Remove any of the pauses to make some of these workflows very quick. I guess even faster than I go through some of them. But you can pause them and review them, look at them. If you want to know how to do this again, just pull it up and you can see it. That's pretty cool. Cut film up on top of the Google Earth view. This Google Earth view is really good. Thought I had a cut film map for this one. Original ground to finish grade. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. This will be posted, you'll be able to watch it at any point. And I guess we'll be good for next week. I'm hoping to be able to do this every Thursday at the same time. And just keep it up, just do it, have nothing really planned. Hopefully have some guests on at some point. Probably next week. But But yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next week.